Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. We're on volume 7 of Fire Punch, and I'm laughing because as I record this, volume 3 is about to come out on YouTube and volume 4 on Patreon, and I've realized the last couple weeks that I'm going to have a lot of comments with this series, but this has been the first opportunity I've had to record a series early, and I kind of want to finish it. So I've talked about this in the last reaction about maybe eventually doing Fujimoto's like other solo one-shots, and I still want to do that, but with all the other projects that I want to do this spring, it will likely be summer before I get to that. And if I'm being honest, I want to kind of spread the Fujimoto out because I want to savor it as much as I can while we're waiting on the inevitable Chainsaw Man Season 2, because we all know it's coming. It's just a matter of time. So with all the comments that I get from this series, I was like, what do? I do eventually, once I finish the BBLA novel, I want to do a Death Note live stream just for like an hour or two. I say an hour or two, but mainly just an hour or two, just sitting down doing a live stream about Death Note and talking about it and everything. And I think I want to do that for this series too. I think what I would like to do eventually is just, I haven't done a live stream in a long time, mainly because we haven't had a lot of series end, that have not been ongoing. So it will be cool to do a live stream about Fire Punch, and then we can also talk about Chainsaw Man to an extent, and about Goodbye Eri, look back, and just listen to the song. We can talk about the Fujimoto experience in general, and obviously I'll put a big caveat in there, like, please no Chainsaw Man manga spoilers, and if people start getting crazy, then I'll just leave the chat. But I would like to do a live stream about Fire Punch because I believe it would be cool to revisit this series and talk about it with you all after I've gone through the comments. So what I'll probably do is, obviously, if there's any comments from volumes 3 and 4 this coming week, I will compile them into my reaction for volume 8. And then any after that, which I'm sure there will be, I'll just kind of compile it into like a document and save them, and then when we do the live stream, it'll probably be in late April by the time we do the live stream, because I've got some trips planned in early April. So by late April, we'll probably do a live stream about Fire Punch, talk about all those extra comments, talk about Fujimoto, and just kind of have a fun little like hour, 2-hour session just to sit down and chill and talk about this series. So that's kind of my plans. That's where I'm thinking. But I will definitely update Patreon, the Discord, and the YouTube community post and talk about it when I get a time and day kind of cemented, right? And then we'll do that. But I couldn't wait because last volume, it completely went against every expectation I had. Every expectation. I was like, episode volume 5 ended with Tagada dying, Cilia the Ice Queen saying that like Agni was in ultimate despair, and it seemed like the lead up to the climax of the series, and I'm like, we have 3 more volumes, what are we gonna do? And then last volume, it's just like everything got rebooted. Agni lost his powers of being... Agni was like a fallen angel, right? And I'm sure there'll be comments leading up to this, but Agni was like a fallen angel. Like, he got to the top of the tower with Judah, and they both just fell from grace. And what's crazy is, I was thinking about this today when I was driving home from work, is that Tagada kind of became Agni's anchor in the weirdest of ways. Agni, leading up to meeting Tagada, had kind of been one with him and Luna. He had been an actor, pretending like everything was okay when he knew it wasn't, but he was pretending for his sister's sake. And then once he lost her, he was just jettisoned into this pit of despair and didn't know what to do. And so life like had no meaning. He was indifferent and emotionless, and everything was just something to destroy and get out of his way. And then once he met Tagada, it's like she became his anchor, because Tagada understood kind of where he was coming from and had gone through their own set of despairing times, but had kind of, gotten through it and accepted things they were and said, no, F it, I'm going to change it and make it my own and make my movie. And so Tagada kind of became like an emotional anchor to Agni and allowed Agni to kind of reason through his trauma and find a way to use that acting to his benefit. And then it was to Tagada's benefit as well, him posing to be a god. And now that Tagada's gone, in volume 6, Agni, it's like Agni, he's not in that pit of despair he was before meeting Tagada. But now that Tagada's gone, there's no anchor there. So all of this acting that he knows, that he's built up over the years, all of this anger and hatred, it's kind of like there's nowhere to place it. So it kind of drives him crazy. And he's like, he's acting the entire volume 6. he's putting on an act in various capacities, and just, he doesn't know where to put this hatred and anger because Doma's gone, and he's met Doma's daughter, and he doesn't know what to do with it. He's acting as much as he can because it's all he knows. He doesn't really know who he is. He's not a god. He's not immortal. He's not human. It's like Agni doesn't know what he is. And so he's just, and without Tagada there as his anchor, he's lost, and it's just chaos. And I'm like, it's the most wild thing. And it's so fascinating because we have all these unanswered questions. We don't know where Sulya the Ice Witch is. No clue. We don't know if Batman and the others are dead. That tree fell on them. You would assume they're dead, but we don't know. We don't know where Sun and Neto is. If they're safe, we don't know. Agni's not a god of fire anymore, so is that going to affect how Sun views him if he sees him? Would he even believe that he's even Agni? He might not. He might not think that he's Agni because he's not on fire, right? So what do we do with that? And will Neto be able to be the cooler head that prevails? I don't know. And there's so many questions as to where this story can go. And we have 2 volumes left. And I figured the best way to go into this is to read ahead and go in with no expectations. Just see where it takes us. The only thing we do know is that Agni has decided, he has made the decision, 1, that he's going to make Judah his sister Luna. And then 2, he is willing to sacrifice everything for Luna. And like I said last volume, I don't think Judah's alive anymore. I think the moment Judah woke up and was rebooted into Luna, and Agni said that she was Luna and not Judah, I figured Judah's dead, Luna is back. That seems to be the case. But to what end do we do with that? And somebody was pointing out in the Discord, we were talking about this, that yeah, there's not any babies in this world. I've speculated the entire series that these blessed are all they're all clones or artificial intelligent or robots or something. They've had the artificial skeleton in the regenerative blesseds. So I'm like, are they all robots? Are they all clones? Are they all artificial intelligence? Are they all androids? There's no babies in this world, but they talk about having babies, so is that a programmed memory? Is it just the blessed? Is all of humanity like that? I don't know, and I don't know if Fujimoto is going to tell us that or not. I guess we'll find out, but the cover of this volume is a split between Agni and Judah, aka Luna, or maybe it's Sulya. We don't know, they all look alike, right? But Agni is noticeably, his skin is ashen, which is kind of funny because he was on fire, and now that the fire's gone, his skin is ashen. His eyes are like a golden color, a yellow color, and her eyes are blue. It's like the opposite colors. And her face is positioned a little bit higher than Agni's. So in my mind, that's him viewing her in a place above him. It's not like a split screen where they're symmetrically cut. Her head is more above his. So I don't know what that means, but this series has been so fascinating, and what I liked about the last volume, aside from it going in a completely different direction, is that it's exploring Agni's character and making him a lot more complex and interesting, and to make your protagonist just absolutely lose their mind is a pretty interesting feat, and still make him compelling, right? Because Agni could be a really boring character or a really off-the-rails character, and he's riding that fine line, right? So yeah, I'm excited. I don't know what we're going to get from this, but I know I couldn't wait, so I'm excited, y'all, to see what ends up happening. I hope y'all are too, but we're not going to waste any more time. I've almost talked for 10 minutes, so we are going to start Fire Punch Volume 7, baby! And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. I had to go pour some more tea because we need to spill the tea. What was this volume? That is a penultimate volume. There we go. There we go. By the end of it, as we see Sun, our beautiful cinnamon bean, towering above the masses, holding the heads of Sulya and Jack, or the equivalent, seeing him like towering above, using his lightning powers to levitate now. Oh my god, like Sun becoming this villainous character out of all other characters, and this is what's happened in the 10 years. Oh my god. This volume. This feels like the setup for a final volume. This feels like the setup. Yep, this feels like the setup for the final volume. They've captured Judah. They're gonna like sacrifice Judah to make Agni to appease Agni, their god, but they don't realize the links, or maybe they do realize the links that things have gone with Agni. They're luring him back, and just everything about this. Oh my gosh. This volume went there. Fujimoto went there. He was like, this is a penultimate volume. This is what we're doing. At first I was like, I didn't know where we were going. And then once we touched base with Sun, I was like, and Solya's there with them. What the fudge? Oh my god. But that was short-lived. I needed. Like Borku needed. Because holy shit. I'm kind of floored, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go pour another glass of tea. I drank like my first drink. I was like, I'm gonna pour some tea, get a nice little cup here, and we need to go through this volume because, y'all, this volume's great. I've already seen the cover of volume 8. It's beautiful. It's a great reversal of this cover. We'll talk about when we do it next week, but that tea needs to cool down, and Agni gets his powers back. There are a lot of callbacks that I feel like, because I just watched this reaction. There's not been much time in between me watching this and starting this discussion. I feel like if anything, people in the comments are going to bring up callbacks in this volume to previous volumes, because it seems like it just keeps like cycling back around this time to start bringing things up. But at this point, there's a lot of stuff brought out to try to explain, like possibly what this means about the world warming up, what this means. But God, there's a lot it's one of those things where I'm like, my mind is swimming with everything that happened in this volume, because it was all the themes were coming full circle. Everything was wrapping back around, and I'm like, oh my God. Just, what do we do? Sun, the revelation about Sun and the idea of hero worship and like the literal toxicity of it, and it just poisons Sun. He's like a battery that's gone on too long, and it's just like acidic, and it started to crust in on itself. That's what Sun's become, right? And I'm like, my baby cinnamon bun is like, I feel like Mushu off Mulan. He's like, my baby's out there being a religious cult leader. So, okay, so we got some questions answered. We got more questions raised. The themes of this volume, God. And the thing about Fujimoto and the themes of this is that they are very on the nose. They're not subtle. They're not subtle at all. But in the weirdest of ways, they're not subtle, but they don't beat you over the head with them. It's such a weird thing, because like the themes that Fujimoto are trying to get out are like right there in front of you, but they don't feel, ironically enough, they don't feel preachy, and they don't feel like they're obvious. They're there front and center, but they don't feel obvious, but they're not subtle. No. Oh my God. This cover of Judah and Agni is sunk down. And then if you see the cover for volume 8, because I've already purchased volume 8, I just did it in preparation for next week. But the volume is going to be of Agni reversed, where he is above as Fire Punch, and then Judah slightly below. So there's that duality there. It's the symmetry there, and everything's brighter. So, God, this chapter, man. And now the Masked Man, his presence makes sense. Ben, Sun, and Neneto makes sense. We went through a 10-year time skip in this volume. Just what the fudge. So, man, the idea of kill Fire Punch. So let's break down a couple things here. Let's break down a couple things, shall we? Let's talk about Agni. Agni, this entire series, I like that his name refers to being like a fire deity and literally being in agony this entire time. It's very, very sad. I feel for Agni's character, because he has never known genuine happiness. That's the sad thing, is that I don't think his character has ever felt genuine happiness. And he has always been putting on an act for others, even his own sister, who he believes he loves, but he doesn't really know what that emotion is, because he's never experienced real happiness. He's always been in this depressed state of being and just faking it. And here, the idea is that he's always been an actor and putting on a false smile, or a pained smile. That's such a phrase. And so in the end of volume 6, Tina asks him to kill Fire Punch, and he says that he will. And what do we start out our volume with? We start out volume 7 with him literally trying to kill himself over and over again. And it won't work. Every time he tries to kill himself and tell himself to die. And I love that the trees that he's around, the spire trees, they look exactly like the type of trees that Judah were when she became the soul-sucking tree. And every time he thinks he's going to die, he instantly goes back to Luna/Judah telling him to live. And he heals. And that's where we're left at. But he has the will to live through Judah/Luna. And so he doesn't want to die, but here's the thing. He feels like he should be guilty. But we find out later that he actually doesn't feel at all. He doesn't feel emotions at all. He's so numb from everything that's happened. And you could say the numbness is kind of like a funny play on the fact that it's so cold out there, that numbness is from the extremities. But he's just gotten to the point where he doesn't feel anything. Nothing. He has no emotions in his system. He just thinks he should feel guilty, and he thinks he should die for putting everyone in the situation, but he doesn't want to die. His body still wants to live and survive. And I like that he keeps going back to, there's the version of him, the young version of him, the young Agni. That version is a representation of his guilt and that he should die. He keeps going back to that version of himself that was responsible for not being able to protect Luna. It keeps looking at him with such contempt. And it's just like he's looking at himself saying, stop looking at me like that. Like he's looking at himself feeling guilty. But then he says later that he doesn't feel guilt, right? Now, I did wonder if he was really killing a deer. If he was really killing a deer this whole time, or if he was chopping up his own meat and serving it to them all. I wondered if that was the case, because he keeps sitting there trying to cut himself even after he tries. Like, God, it's horrible. It's horrible watching a character do that to themselves, like do all this self-harm. And they would cut to them. And it's such a representation of feeling depressed and feeling outside of the bubble, because the girls are all happy, right? The Tina and all of them are all happy. He's like, just yesterday they lost their comrade, but they're laughing. And he's like, your family, I killed them all, and you're laughing in front of me. And then he just starts to get sick. He's like, it's been so long since I've had food in my stomach, and now I can't handle it. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Agni has gone for 8 years. So before the time skip, he was like 23. After the time skip, at this point, in the present time, he's like 33. So he's in his 30s. Our 30-year-old virgin, no more. We'll talk about that scene. But yeah, he feels so bad, because he's like, how can you all smile? Like, you all just lost someone. But in this world, they've resided themselves that they can't sit around and wallow in their misery their whole lives. They have to keep moving forward and find some positive in life, or they'll just drown in sorrow. And Agni has been drowning in sorrow this entire time. He doesn't know how to climb his way out of that pit, right? And he's like, the girl who's not my sister's my sister. These people that believe my lies have eaten the deer that I killed. The daughter of the man I killed is telling me to kill myself. He's like, I think I prefer when I was enveloped in anger, pain, and madness and lies. So at this point, Agni, he almost prefers, a hell alone than this fabricated present that he's just sifting through. He's just sifting through the motions, but you can tell he's like, he feels so empty because everything around him is a lie, and he's just acting throughout the whole thing, right? Which is funny because that kind of relates to Sun. We'll put Sun over here. And I'm going to put Ann Nanetto. I really like Nanetto's character. Nanetto's character's grown on me a lot. I really like her character and that she kind of sees through all the bullshit, right? But Sun is kind of dealing in this same situation where Sun knows, he knows or is aware of the fabrication around him. And Nanetto knows too. But the thing of it is that Sun leans into his own views because that's all he has survived with. Back when he was in the plant, that the one guy, which I thought was Jack, which I'm pretty sure is in this volume, the fuck, is... Unless it's someone else that looks like him. The only reason he was able to survive in that plant at the time was by telling all the other firewood those stories about Agni, and that was the only way he could get by, right? So that lie, the lie about Agni as a god, became a means of truth and survival. Right? It's the one thing that kept him going, were these lies he created about Agni, to the point where he's kind of leaned into it. He may realize he's been lying this whole time to himself and everyone else, but he leans into it and is like, nah, just go all in. If it's what keeps me going, if it gives my life purpose, sure. And Agni has kind of done the exact same thing, except with Luna. With Luna and Judah, he's gone all in on the lie because it's his means of survival. The only reason he keeps going is because he believes in Judah/Luna, and that's what he's like dying to protect, or that's what he's living to protect. So yeah, you have Sun and Agni, who are both, they know that it's a lie, but they've been telling it for so long, and other people have bought into it, that now they can't leave it, right? Because it will destroy every fabric around them of their existence. And so so you either wallow in misery, which is kind of what Agni's doing, or you lean in and go, no, let's drink the Kool-Aid. And that's what Sun's done. It's like, oh my God. And the thing of it is that 10 years pass and we get a glimpse and an idea of what's happened with Agni. We don't know what's happened with Sun, but we can make some speculations. We'll get to that. But yeah. So, and of course my dog is like, throw me the ball. And so yeah. He's like, your hand's almost better. Take it slow and let the arm heal. And when it's better, kill Fire Punch. And so then we have Tina, and Tina's reading some kind of like manga or something, or some kind of book. And Agni again, he's like that child, she was sexually assaulted and is pregnant. He's like, that child is my fault. He's like, all of this is my fault. And there's a voice inside of him that's that younger version of him that's like, then kill yourself, then die. If you think it's your fault, then stop it. Don't let it keep going. And just that constant noise of trying to kill himself. And then, but Judah won't let him. Judah brings him back. And Agni tries to say why. He's like, why do you want me to live? Because that's been his question the entire series, is why do people want me to live? Why? And the answer is because they love him. That's really it. Is that is that they want him to live because they love him and because they know he's strong. And that's and that message is, I mean, it's a pretty powerful message for someone like Agni, who's so in the depths of despair. And like other anime protagonists that you probably know from other series before him, he doesn't believe that he's worth living. He doesn't believe the voice. I think of Eren in Attack on Titan, and I think of Thorfinn in Vinland Saga, that they've done things that they believe they're not worthy of love. They are not worthy of being cared for. They don't believe that they deserve to live from what they've done. And Agni kind of falls suit in that. And I appreciate Fujimoto saying, no, this is, you deserve to be loved. Like, you're human. You deserve love. And Judah is giving this to you. That's why they want you to live. Like, just try. Because he keeps saying you can't. And Judah's like, then just live for tomorrow. Eat, sleep, wake up. Just keep going. Like, do it with me together. Don't be alone. And that's a really powerful message for someone like Agni, who's going through this depression and has been struggling and suffering alone. To have someone with them, it's no wonder that he wants to protect her and keep her safe, because she right now is the one that's the only one around him that's vocalized that love, right? And so he talks about the pain being beyond imagining, but he gets used to it and he acclimates. He's like, my stomach had taken food, but I couldn't taste it. So he talks about surviving, even though it's just surviving. He's like, the food doesn't taste like anything. And actually, when you go back and look at the panels, his arm is slowly growing back, right? There's a passage of time. He's like, I got better at faking smiles because I can no longer emote. So he's like, I could take in food, but I couldn't taste it. I could smile, but I didn't feel anything. Everyone trusted me, but I couldn't sleep at night. Like that's such a good line. Like, everybody came to trust me, but I lost the ability to sleep. Like, oh, that gives me chills. That's such a good line, Fujimoto. So good. And then we see Tina, like, time passing, and then we see that there's a baby born. A child was born, but the sea froze over again. Like a child was born, but things didn't get better. So it's like, oh God, it's just like all this duality here. But so we do get some questions answered. We should put that over here. So our questions and loose ends. So the blessed can have kids. So they're maybe not all androids. We talked about earlier, like, where's the babies? Well, Tina had a baby, Oya, and so they can have babies. And she comes to love Agni like a brother, like big brother. And so he's like, my right arm healed, and I lived for 10 whole years since that day. So yeah, 10 years passed. And that's when he goes to cut down the tree. But the thing about it is that those 10 years, he keeps trying to kill himself. It didn't make it better, right? And that's kind of the disturbing thing, is that even after all of that, he still tried to kill himself. And that's such a sad, that tears my heart out. It does. Because he went for 10 years, like, getting acclimated, trying to pretend everything was fine, but it wasn't. And it's a very harrowing and haunting depiction of someone struggling through that depression, and how on the outside everybody thinks they're fine. And then we cut to him trying to kill himself with the chainsaw. Like, just that we don't know, like, whatever they're going through. And it's absolutely heartbreaking to watch that scene of it cutting to him, and he still has the voice in his head telling him to live. And then Tina says that she says Tina's 24 now, you know, she's not, so she was like 14, right, when she had that kid. I like that she's like, I feel more strongly than ever that I want him to die, fire punch. And so then he goes to sleep with Judah. So we have the whole thing with Judah. I'm not surprised they had sex. The moment he convinced Judah to be Luna, I was like, oh, Fujimoto, you're going to make them have sex now that they're adults and they're not technically brother and sister, so it won't be totally incestuous, right? You're going to make them have sex. It's like the number one rule in a horror movie is that the characters that have sex, something bad's going to happen to them immediately afterwards. It's like cardinal rule of horror movies. You don't have sex with anybody or something bad happens. That's like this manga. It's like, nope, you can't have nice things. It's like once the character in a romance series gets together, something bad's going to happen. Guaranteed. It's like, we can't have nice things, right? And so he gives the idea to Judah saying, if I were Fire Punch, what would you do? And she says, I'd tell you not to kill anyone anymore. And then we go, which is amazing, right? Because he's like, if I was the one that was the killer, what would you say to me? And in Judah's case, Judah's like, well, then if I knew you were Judah, basically says, if you're self-aware, then change yourself. Then change for the better. If you realize something, then change for the better. Then don't just be stagnant, but like move forward, right? Which seems in line with both Judah and Luna, right? But then we cut the Sun. Sun with his Eren Yeager six-pack. He's like if Armin grew up and got hot, right? Only Armin becomes the villain. So yeah. So we have this one guy. I guess it's not Jack. I thought it was Jack at first, but I guess it's someone different. It's somebody that's with Solia, right? But Sun, people believe what they want to believe, how they want to believe it. That God, Sun's whole storyline, Sun's entire character arc has been a thing. I did not see this coming. So Sun would be in his 20s. He's a full-grown man now. Oh my God. Here we are. But the idea that people believe what and how they want. People will twist a story to bend it for themselves however they need to do it. It's like you create the truth that you got to believe to survive, right? And so we have the guy there, the guy that won't fire bullets at him, which if he's mastered his electricity powers, maybe he'd be able to deflect it somehow. I don't know. And so this one guy speaks the truth. The one guy's like, hey, I'm just going to point this out here. Fire Punch killed all your families and burned your houses down. Why are you treating him like a god? He's not, right? And Sun is saying, no, Behemdorg was ruled by Judah. She created a false god and laughed at the good people. Agni came and freed us from Judah's charades. And the guy's like, no, Agni didn't free anybody. He just destroyed a bunch of shit. Like, what history are you talking about? But Sun has got the masses. He's got the masses placing blame on Judah and making Agni the savior. Which is so kind of crazy because on the one hand, yeah, Agni did save Sun. He did come in and do things, but he is not exactly the savior that Sun is making him out to be. And so he makes up this thing where he's like, people burned to death by Agni go to a peaceful world near the sun where there's no snow, no hunger, no madness, which those are the three things that this entire series is focused on. A world of hunger, snow, and madness. And Sun's like, if Agni touches you, you'll go to a heaven away from that, where it's peaceful days at Lord Agni's mercy. And the guy's like, that's bullshit. And he's like, it doesn't matter. You'll never know the truth because you're going to die by Lord Agni's lightning. And you'll live your days in a hell buried in snow. He says, you damned lying Judah. And he's like, the scriptures of flames. Like, they're chapters and verses. So over the 10 years, throughout these 10 years, Sun has created a lore around Agni, which I kind of like that with Sun's name, right? Because Sun is this burning star, right? So he just keeps on, he keeps going. Like the sun is present at all times, right? Even when it's night, that's just, well, you know what I mean. But the sun, it's been a constant, right? And it just keeps going no matter what. And I like the idea, God. So basically, he uses lightning to leap past that guy and take out his whole body. Sure. And landed on a mountain instead. And he kicked that man's face. He kicked that man's face off of his body into the mountain. Okay. So Sun's gotten really, really strong. Sun has gotten really strong over these past 10 years. And is now like, has a ripped body, using electricity. He doesn't wear a shirt because all that energy is coming off his body and it's creating heat, right? I find it fascinating that we go to the house and he prays to Lord Agni with the ray of light, right? So he goes to the house. I find it ironic that the house has this big cross on it for Agni, when last volume Agni was standing on the cross, like clearly desiccating it because Agni doesn't believe he's a god. That's all an act. But Sun is like all in on it. Oh my God. And then the parallels of the three of them. And the crazy thing is, what confused me at first is because Sulya is looking at the camera. Sulya has turned her body looking at the camera. So this one moment where it's a complete parallel of volume 2, where it showed Judah and Doma and Jack like sitting there doing the same thing. It's a complete callback to that. But I guess this guy isn't Jack. Or maybe he is. It would be weird if he was Jack, because he's the guy that tried to have Sun have sex with dogs. But maybe he is. I don't know. But Sulya's there. So during these 10 years, Sulya, the Ice Witch, and I'm going to just say Jack with a question mark, has befriended Sun. She wormed her way in. I was like, where's Sulya been this whole time? She's been worming her way into there. And so they're like, they basically have scared off the Behemdorg refugees. No one wants to die, and life here isn't so bad. The only problem is the snow. It was good for a while, but it's grown cold again. So Agni destroyed Judah, so the tree failed. Even though it failed for 10 years, the world did warm up a bit. So basically, what they're probably suggesting is that town that Judah sucked the energy from in that one town before she was destroyed as the tree, maybe that warmed up the earth just for like 10 years and that was it. Because originally 20 years and the whole place was supposed to go kaput. So I guess she helped the world for like a decade and that's all they got. And so they found out where Judah is. And the thing about it is that Sun starts to like recite the chapters about Agni. And this guy is like, Sun, we thought up all that bullshit together. All the followers of Agniism want Judah to die. And so Sun's kind of conflicted because he's like, well, Judah's with Lord Agni. If we kidnapped her, it might make him sad. And God, that side eye that Sulya and that one guy gave where they're like, and? It's great. They're like, but if we don't do something, we're going to be buried in snow and then all of humanity will die. And Agni's like, well, or Sun's like, Agni won't die because he's surrounded by fire. And that's when Sulya says, Agni might not be the amazing person you think he is. And Sun can't take that. And Sulya adds, well, Agniism has enough military force to steal Judah away. I'll make Agni sad for the greater good of humanity. So we've got this conflict where Sun still, it's like the ultimate form of literal hero worship. He worships Agni and wants to keep him happy. But then you have Sulya, who's saying that we need to get Judah and humanity is better than Agni's happiness. So there's a conflict of interest there, right? But Sulya and this other guy have agreed to help Sun all these years with convincing the masses because that's the safest thing for them to do. I love Nanetto. Nanetto's beautiful. Like, she's there and he's like, Nanetto, did you hear? And she's like, well, you're the head honcho. And Sun says it's all an act. So Sun acknowledges that it's an act being the leader. I do think that he still worships Agni because, like, when he killed that one guy, the refugee, he was still praying all by himself. The fact that he prayed in silence by himself shows that he genuinely believes that Agni is a god to him, or it's his savior, right? And Neneto, she just wants Sun to not destroy the people there. Neneto's like, can you just make sure you don't kill the people here if whatever you do? And I love that he's like, I'd never do that. And then we see the cross that represents his view of Agni. It's so symbolic because it's not only a cross representing Agni to Sun, but it's also a cross dividing Neneto and Sun, and it's iced over, showing that they're running out of time. It's beautiful symbolism. I feel like Sun and Neneto loves Sun, but she realizes that he got some issues, right? And so then this guy is like, we steal Judah from Agni, and his flames were extinguished by Judah. He's an ordinary blessed. Who will we send after her? And they say those whose families were killed by Agni and Judah and who want revenge. And they blocked out the guy with the mask. They blocked out his face with a word bubble. It's Fujimoto. That's why I was like, who's the guy that's naked there and there? They blocked out his face with a word bubble. How dare they? How dare they? So we go to the ice fishing with Oya and Luna and Agni, and that's when Neneto shows up. And he recognizes Neneto, but when she says, are you Agni? Oya hears, and Oya will tell Tina, who knows that that's another name. That's another name for Fire Punch, and that's how she connects the dots through Oya. Okay, that makes more sense now. Man. And so Neneto getting left with Agni. I like that he remembered Neneto because she is his tie to Tagada. So I like that he remembered who she was. That was really good. And then she recognized his flames are gone, and he says it's because of Luna's blessing. And then as soon as she goes, Luna, oh, Judah. Like, she connects the dots instantly. She's like, oh, so you've just been playing house, right? So that line, though, Neneto, she just completely comes for him. She does not worship Agni like Sun does. And she says that we were rebuilding while you were playing. She's like, you haven't done jack shit. You've just been playing house with this woman, making her think that she's your sister, and we've been trying to, like, live our lives, and you've not helped at all. And she's like, Judah's responsible for your sister dying, so why are you doing this? And she's like, don't you get that? And so she tells him, she's like, look, make a choice between Judah or everyone else here. We're coming to get Judah. She's like, the world is going to be covered with ice, and we need to use Judah to heat up the world again. The 4 others besides Judah, there are women and children in there. Are you okay with them freezing to death? And so then he's like, well, how do you know about all of us? And she says, Sun once found this place, and he saw you. He knows all this, but he lets you continue your life here uninterrupted. And I like these, like, Sun's alive too. And he's like, Sun prays for your happiness more than anything, even more than our own. So Neneto puts the idea that Sun values Agni's happiness over everything. And there's a little bit of bitterness there because Neneto clearly likes Sun, but she knows, she's like, Sun loves you way more than he loves me, or that he ever will. And it's like, But she's like, so apparently Sun has seen Agni. He knew about the flames going out, but maybe all this was trying to get Agni to light the fire again, right? So Neneto says that she's going to come back for Judah, and if not, they're going to take her by force, basically. You either save all of humanity or a single person because she looks like your sister. I mean, when it's phrased like that. But to Agni, his whole life's been an act. So what's this, right? And the sad thing is he thinks about all of them. And I love that the idea of fire punch and him just punching the ground. Like he knows what he's doing is wrong, but doesn't know anything else. And the idea of Judah praying to him. So again, there's this idea of praying. What I love is that we have the duality of you have sun praying during the sunlight to the sun, and Judah, aka Luna, praying to the moon. So it's great contrast. The symbolism, it's great. But then Agni asks her the question, the trolley problem, if you were to choose me or a group of others, who would you save? And she's like, why can't I save everyone? And he's like, because everybody's afraid of me, because I'm a stranger that's a murderer. And she's like, I'd still pick you. And she's like, because I love you. I like that she has to stand on her tiptoes to kiss him. It's a cute little detail. And he's like, but I lied to you. And she says, what matters is you were thinking of me. And I was like, okay, Misa, Amane. Right? And he's like, I'm scared, but I still love you. And she's like, since we're not related, we can do this. So my question is she going to get pregnant from having sex with him one time? Is that going to be enough? I mean, did we just time this right? And she just happens to get pregnant. And if so, and they have a baby, what do we do with that? Can she even have babies? Tina could, but Tina was blessed with fire. She wasn't regenerative. So is there a difference with that? And it's very much, she was the instigator in all of it, and his facial expression throughout all of that leading up to it is just like, he becomes a hot dog. Although, I will say this, Fujimoto drawing that scene of the post-coitus scene it's beautifully drawn, all the sheets and everything, and he really does, there is a passion there that it's very classily done between the two of them. And the idea is she's like, I didn't recognize you during sex. And it's like, well, I'm probably a good thing we didn't see that. And he apologizes, and she's like, don't stop being yourself. And they do the fist bump. And it's the fist bump that him and Luna did all those years ago, right? Of course! Outside the door, they're all sitting there with guns, listening to that whole thing. It's like, oh my God. They heard everything, and they're like, these siblings messing around. What the hell? And they put on their clothes and have this cute moment, hugging each other, and that's when everybody comes in with the guns. And they're like, have you been lying to us this entire time? And it's like, yep. And speaking of lying, then we cut to Nanetto, and he's like, I thought you said you were going to come and get Judah the next night. And she's like, I lied. She's like, if he wasn't going to hand her over then, he was never going to hand her over. So we're doing this now. And just the idea of the grenade and the lighting and the composition and everything blowing up. It's, God, Fujimoto can draw. He can draw, right? I remember reading something during Chainsaw Man, someone shared in the Discord, saying that Fujimoto was often ashamed of the fact that they were only given a week for each chapter, and he felt like his artwork wasn't living up to the standard that he wanted to set. And after reading this and seeing this artwork, I get it. Because it's like the artwork that Fujimoto gives in this series is absolutely beautiful. And so, no, it all makes sense. And then Oya, we don't know about Oya. We don't know what her situation is. Luna had her arm and leg cut off, but then it grows back. And then there goes Fire Punch. And then, God, the masked man coming in, unraveling his arm. And then, doing that battle. I would honestly want to see this animated for this fight scene. It is the most gruesome and gory thing. I was sick to my stomach. I was about to throw up. There was a few times, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, there's a few times I was getting a little sick to my stomach reading this. I was like, don't you do it, Romania, don't you get sick. No. But I would honestly want to see this animated for this fight alone. Just the animation, if Mappa or whoever was animating this, the fire, the light on the snow, the flames, the masked guy who says his face was burned by Judah's lackeys. He's a crazed avenger, which makes sense now, back in volume 4 when he showed up. The other girl and them were followers of Agni, but this guy, he followed Agni originally because he was against Judah. Well, now he's with Judah, so of course the guy wants to be avenged. And so that fight scene where he just stabs him through the body with all of the different iron blades and then goes and chops off Judah's head to take away. She's been decapitated like 3 times now. Like 3 or 4 times. But no wonder she can't remember anything, right? And then him getting up and taking the blade and slicing his face off. That part I was like, nope. And if the face falls onto his chest, onto his Dorito peck body. The fudge. And he's just sitting there without a face going up against him. And that representation of Agni where he cuts off his face. Meaning that he does not have an identity. He doesn't know who he is. We can't see the soul because we can't see through the eyes. The eyes are in that scene where it's him versus the masked man. His eyes are gone, so there's no window to the soul in that moment. He literally becomes Fire Punch, right? And then they battle till the morning. I'm glad they do find Oya, so Oya's safe. They've covered her eyes the entire time, like for hours. But he's like just split in half, about to die. And the masked man's like, I'm tired, so kill me. And I love that you can see his eye juxtaposed next to Agni's eye. It's great. And then as he's going to kill him with his fist raised, he goes back to Judah saying, I'd tell you not to kill anyone anymore. And then Tina steps in the way. And Tina's like, what are you doing? Tina's like, and he goes, you don't know anything about me. And she's like, you don't know anything about yourself. Tina's like, you don't get cold, but you wear clothes. You have no sense of taste, but you still eat the food. She's like, I know you better than you know yourself. We've been living together for 10 years. How could I not know you? She's like, are you clueless? She's like, you need to stay as Agni for Oya, for us, and not become Fire Punch. If you go to save Judah, then you're going to end up killing people. She's like, this is not what Luna wants. This is not what Judah wants. This is not what we want. Like, nobody wants this. And I love the line where she says, everybody but you wants you to be happy. And that kind of goes back to that depression, right? That Agni he doesn't see it. There's a barrier there where there's this concept that everyone wants his happiness but him. And it's the saddest thing, right? It is the saddest thing. It really is. I'm like, ugh. And then there's the idea of like connecting the hands together, the fists, meaning you won't forget a promise. And she bumps his bloody fist there, right? And God, that is such a cool symbol that Fujimoto repeats over the next few pages, where it shows Tina's hand hitting his bloody fist, being like, let's not do this. Don't kill anybody else. But then it cuts to like the burning body, and it's like when our hands bump, you can't forget that painful memory. So always remember doing this. And then you cut to Luna saying, you can't be alone. You'll catch cold. And then like, there's that moment. There's like, you have to, and then it shows him and his sister when they were kids, the fist bump. It says, going fishing, it'll be warmer with the two of us. And there's this idea that they keep going back to being together and being warm. So the idea that the warmth is created when you're with someone and not alone. That's the whole thing. Like, the world is better and warmer when you're not alone and when you're with somebody, right? And so, God, all these moments where it shows them as kids out in the forest, and he's like doing this with their face, and then it shows him and Judah having sex, and then they do the same thing, and it shows him seeing Judah, seeing Luna, and it going back and forth with the hands. And then, of course, they cut from, like, the happy moment where it's like, you always look happy when you talk about warm times, and I love it, to the part where she's, like, burning alive and her eyeballs are popping out of her face. Like, Fujimoto, if it ever gets warm again, let's travel the world together. And at that point, Agni's like, look, I know you want me to be Agni, and you want me to be this way, And the pained smile, right? Where he's like, I can't hide from who I am. He's like, that fist bump is to remind me of what's got me here. So I can't, he's like, I've pretended this whole time to be someone I'm not. But I'm the one that killed your dad, and I tortured your family and loved ones. I'm not Agni. I'm Fire Punch. And he says he doesn't care about being happy. He says this whole time he's been living for revenge. But the thing of it is that a lie or is it the truth? Because he says he's been living for revenge, and he just wants to see her suffer, and he wants Doma to suffer, knowing that his daughter and granddaughter were friends with the person that killed all of them. But I'm like, is that Agni acting too? Is Agni just laughing? But he's got tears in his eyes, even though he's laughing and smiling. I'm like, he doesn't mean it. It's just, he's just saying that to push her away so that she won't get hurt too. That's exactly what he's doing. I'm like running out of space. But he's pushing Tina away because he knows that he knows he has to go after Judah. He can't let her go. And if he doesn't push Tina away, she's going to keep following him. And he doesn't want Tina and Oya and the others to get hurt. So he's like, I'm going to push you away and get you away from me so that I can go do my thing and you won't follow and get hurt. I mean, it's a strategy that's worked for other characters in other anime. So why not here? Why not here too? So why not here as well? But yeah, and so he smacks her and shoves her away. And then that's when Oya says, don't bully my mom. And it was Oya with the flames that lit Agni on fire. And it was that love that Oya has from her mother that ignites Agni again. And Agni says that the priest, he wasn't Agni. He's like, I used to be called firewood because my limbs were burned in the fireplace and made into flames. Sometimes I think I really am just, he's like, before I had a name, I was just something that was used. But so that's kind of like a world building thing too. So he says that before he was Agni, he said that he was firewood. So that would lend to believe that he had a life before being called Agni. He had a dad, so we thought, but maybe there's more to that past there. And yeah, it didn't dawn on me reading and reacting that it was Oya's flames that reignited him. He's like, but now my limbs are food for the people. Maybe I'm no different than just a pig or a chicken, but you can never know who you are by yourself. It takes you have to rely on what others. Yeah, and then he catches back on fire again. Oh my God, it was Oya. And he's like, no matter how you think of yourself, that you impact others. He's like, in our eyes, you're none of these things. He's like, your perceptions of yourself are not how other people see you. You first know who you are by others' assessments. So yeah, you can have all these like ideas about yourself, but you don't really know who you are until you see how other people view you, is what he's saying, which is crazy. And so Tagada shows up. Good for her making a cameo. And Tagada talks about Tom Cruise, right? And this conversation is so interesting because Tom Cruise is a pop culture reference most of us can understand because he's kind of crazy in real life, but he plays these really cool characters on screen. And so Tagada's like, I was afraid that knowing how he was in real life would hinder my impression of the character that he plays. And honestly, I feel like that's not only relatable for Tom Cruise, but there's lots of like voice actors in Japanese anime that have had scandals about them. Does it change how you view those characters or not? And like Tagada says, it didn't impact how she viewed the character. The character was still the character. So does that say something about the person? And then we see the shots of Judah, of Luna, them saying brother. the idea of die and live. Judah told him to die. Luna said to live. They do the same gesture with the hair. They have the same eyes. And then he says that the only time he felt warm was when she hugged him while they were naked on the beach. And he forgot to thank her. The only time he felt warmth. And then we have him being lit on fire again from Oya's flames. The symbolism of Oya being the one to light him on fire and him thinking back to Luna and Judah. And the only time he's been warm is being around her. So yeah, he's going to go after her. That's like, it's set in stone. It's setting up the battle here. He's going to go after Luna. He has to, because that's the only warmth he's ever felt. The only thing that's made him feel like something other than firewood. Ah! And they're like, oh, great. And he's like, if you come near me, I'll kill you. And then he tells Oya, don't use those flames again. They don't go out. Because she's like, Doma. And she says, big bro, and he's left. Oh, my God. So we cut back to Nanetto with Judah. And Judah doesn't remember anything, right? And she's like, you were quick to understand the position you're in. She's like, I'd expect this from a former religious leader. And she's like, really? Former religious leader? Like there's, Nanetto is saying that even though Judah doesn't remember her past, Nanetto is suggesting that there's a part of Judah inside of her that will always remember. And so it's kind of like an instinct thing inside of her, which is interesting. And so then we have Sun praying against the window, right? And so they're like, we have Judah. And he's like, what about Lord Agni? And this one guy says he'll probably come for her, but he's not a threat. When he's not engulfed in flames, he's just an ordinary blessed. So they established that if they sustain damage on his head, they could wipe out his memory. So this whole idea of the head could lead to a memory wipe. Which, that tracks because Agni punched Judah in the head so many times that she literally forgot who she was. So, okay. World building. We can make you forget if we sustain enough head trauma. And then that's when Solia adds, you can recreate him however you wish. You can make him into an ideal Agni. So Solia tries to worm her way in like the snake that she is, saying that if he has his memory wiped, then Agni could become just like Judah. And just like how Agni molded Judah into Luna, then Sun could mold Agni into the god that he wants him to be, right? And Sun's like, you don't understand a thing. And the fact that Sun's eyes are like pitch black, oh, I love that symbolism. It's just like, it's very unsettling. He's like, do you know what a blessing is? And Solia's like, I've explained it to you. When you light a cigarette, it gives you nicotine. So here's the thing that we know about the blessings, according to Solia's definition, is that the blessings, the blesseds, give off a power, right? They give off a power. So the cigarette is the blessed, right? That in this case. But only a blessed can light it and take in the nicotine. Okay, so what's interesting is that the blessed, there's power. Okay, let me get this right. There is a blessing that gives off a power. So like in Sun's case, the blessing is the electricity, and the power of the electricity can only be wielded by a blessed, right? And Sun says, wrong. Blessings are the love Lord Agni gives those who's chosen. And the one guy says, well, that's a nice way to look at it, but in a little while longer, we won't have to wear all these heavy layers. He says, all that's left is to give Judah the cigarette, teach her how to light it, and get her to breathe in the nicotine, and the world will warm up. And Sun says, you don't believe what I'm saying. And he says, not really. And that's when he's like, I will not stand for people who lack faith. He was too disrespectful of Lord Agni. Like, I'm like, Solia and the one guy do not realize the, like, level 12 cult leader that they've created, right? So they think that all they have to do is to give Judah is the blessed. So if they give her the cigarette and teach her how to light it, so they're like, they need to give her a blessing and get her to use it to warm up the earth. Kind of like what they did with the tree. That's basically what they're suggesting. We're going to do tree 2.0. But Sun's not having it. And I like that Sully says, you speak as though you can see things on the inside. He's like, but you only see things superficially and think you understand everything. And I love that duality of seeing her eyes that are light and his eyes that are pitch black. And he's like, I see everything, and I know you're losing your ability to use your blessing. That's why you can't kill Judah and have to watch from the sidelines. I love it, which makes sense. If Sully has been losing her blessing and hasn't been able to use it, that's why she can't become the tree. That's why she needs Judah. That all makes sense. I still don't understand why she has the tree coming out of her eye. I'm assuming we'll find that out. Maybe that has something to do with her losing her blessing. But when Sun says, Lord Agni has always thought about me and performed miracles for my sake, I'm like, at that point, I'm like, oh, we've gone off the deep end. I was like, Sun has gone off the deep end. Sun is like, he's been testing me these 10 years because Lord Agni loves me best of all. And I'm like, nope, he doesn't, but you don't know that. He's like, because Lord Agni, I believe in Lord Agni more than anyone and understand him better than anyone. I'm like, oh, sweetheart. And I love Sulya's look. Sulya's like, oh, you're nuts. I'm like, yeah. Sulya has this look on her face like, oh, shit. And he's like, Lord Agni is telling me to kill you. And she's like, uh-huh, I hear him too. He's not saying that. And he's like, ah. So I can't believe Sun has gone from being this precious, innocent baby who was like super naive and like quick to like believe all these fantasy stories to like, it has warped him completely. Oh my God. And then he's out there with his 8-pack and the heretics using the lightning, saying that Lord Agni shone through the light and now they've gone to hell. And this entire community believes him, saying a demon of ice is coming. The traitor Judah will be here. Saying Judah. And of course, if he's seen her with Agni, Sun wants to get with Agni. Oh my God, he's jealous of Judah because he thinks that she's like robbed him of his fire and seduced him. Oh my God. And now he's like, it's time for revenge. And I'm like, but dude, he loves Judah. So you're trying to kill the one person that he loves. He's not going to forgive you for that. He's like, with the flames of Judah's sentence that will burn on for eternity will warm up this world. Oh my God. So that's the question. If they kill Judah, is Agni going to like light the world on fire? He might. But this is the penultimate volume. Like way back in volume 5, when Sulya, the ice witch, appeared and was like doom and gloom and despair and being like, now it's your time of despair, Agni. I was like, this feels like it's a red herring because it feels like it should be the penultimate volume, but there's no way. We have 3 more volumes to go. This, setting up Sun versus Agni because Sun wants to kill Judah and that's who Agni wants to protect. This is the final battle, but I didn't think going into this manga in volume 1, I was like, oh, that's cute. Agni, he's got his little sidekick in Sun, and Sun's going to be with him till the very end. No. I did not expect to end this volume with Sun as is Sun the antagonist? I mean, technically he is because Agni is our protagonist, but I did not anticipate at the second to last volume for Sun to be pitted as the antagonist against Agni. And the irony is that Sun doesn't believe he's the antagonist to Agni. He believes he's helping Agni. So it is a big old honking pile of WTF. And I love it. And I love it. Still lots of questions. But we got lots of answers, and I can't believe we only have 1 volume left to wrap up this whole thing. In all honesty, it's been a lot. I mean, it's been disturbing and bonkers, don't get me wrong, but after volume 2, everything like it's like Fujimoto did the first 2 volumes saying, can you handle anything I dish out at you? Okay, you can. Good. Now we'll have the real story start, right? It reminds me of, I had a professor in college that the first day of class, there was like 20 of us in the class, and she handed us out the syllabus, and the syllabus was impossibly hard. There was like a paper each week. We had like 50 pages of reading each week, not lying, and like a discussion forum. We had all this work. And I remember looking at it going, damn it, this is going to be a really hard class. But I didn't quit. I was like, I don't have another option. I got to have this class to graduate, so I guess I'm going to have to tough it out. And the next week, there were 8 of us in the class. And the teacher sat down, looked around the room, and went, okay, cool. You are the 8 that can handle this class, so here's the real syllabus. And it was like half the work. And I was like, oh! And she was like, I wanted to weed out the ones that weren't going to work in this class and be good students. And you all stayed, so cool. And I was like, it was like such a dramatic reveal. I was like, holy shit. But that's what this feels like. Fire Punch feels like Fujimoto gave us those first 2 volumes to weed out the ones that weren't going to be able to handle it. And if you kept reading, then he's like, okay, here's the story. And it's like, oh. But yeah. So we have 1 volume left. I'm pretty excited. So I'm going to wait at least until volumes 4 and 3 come out. I can get some comments from those. And then, like I said, I'll probably compile all the rest of the comments for the rest of the series. We'll do a live stream. I'll talk more about it next week, but we'll do a live stream probably at the end of April, and then just talk about Fire Punch and answer questions from Patreon and do lots of fun stuff. So that'll be exciting, but holy cow. I'm just kind of floored. If I'm being honest. Kind of floored, but I love it. So I hope you all enjoyed this reaction and discussion. I'm sure I've left out a million things, but I'm excited to hear your comments down below about them. But I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yes, y'all, I will be back next week with the final volume of Fire Punch. Bye.